Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Xbox Casuals, the Xbox podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Corey Deargan. Alongside me, as always, is my Call of Duty announcement, Josh Fitty.
Oh man, this is this has been a fun week. But
has it though?
For me, yes. For you, no.
Oh my gosh. I'm just kidding.
At the top of the show, before we kick off, though, if you haven't listened to it yet, go to the Boss Rush podcast feed and listen to Corey and I interview Jeff Gardner.
Yes.
Formerly of Bethesda Studios and currently the CEO of Something Wicked Games. We chatted all about his career. He's responsible for some of your favorite RPGs ever, including the Oblivion DLC Shivering Isles, Skyrim, Fallout 3, 4. He was the project lead on 76. He was very candid with us about his career, about 76, about, the ups and downs of a live service game and of its production. Talked a little bit about Weird Song, his new game.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very, very cool guy. I think one of the best interviews I've ever gotten to be a part of.
Yeah, it's also the biggest episode we've ever done too.
Is it really?
In terms of numbers already after 1 week.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I don't want to brag or anything, but
we did promote the shit out of it though.
We really did.
So we put all them clips on Twitter, and I don't know. I probably did like the amount of work I usually do for about 6 podcasts for that episode. But
it got picked up by a few outlets too.
Yeah. Games
Radar wrote a piece about one of the questions that we asked about what's something you fought to keep in one of your games, and he talked about how him, Todd Howard, Emil, and a few others were like the final council of deciding things on Skyrim during crunch, and talked about fighting to keep the weight of of Dragon Bones, and how he lost the fight about friendly fire on companions.
Yeah,
with the same logic.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
It was very funny. Jeff is an incredibly nice person, though. Truly one of the kindest people I've had the pleasure of meeting in the industry. Really, really, really nice.
Yep. He's a great guy. I love having him on. That was the second time we had him on, but I don't think we've seen the last of Jeff Gardner on that show, Josh. So
I hope not. I hope not. Jeff's extremely nice.
Yeah. So go check that out on the Boss Rush podcast. It was last week's episode, so you might have to scroll back a little bit. But this week will be a couple people going to PAX on the episode. So check it out. Josh, speaking of PAX,
you're going to PAX.
I am. I'm going to Storytime with Phil Spencer at 11 o'clock.
That is Friday, right?
That's Friday. Yes, it is.
Oh, I'm so excited for you.
I know. I'm very, very excited. I'm going to try to corner Phil. I'm going to try to corner Uncle Phil. And I'm going to, I don't know, probably get kicked out. But
probably.
I'm excited. I'm also going to go play Monster Hunter Wilds, Josh. Very, very excited. Shout out to our friend Grayson Morales for, being...
I love Grayson.
I know, top tier media and letting me tag along. So very excited. Very, very excited.
Very excited.
Yeah.
Well, Josh, as one show approaches, one ends.
Yes. Very exciting week last week for Xbox fans.
Boy. Of course, that's the week we decided to take off.
Yeah. I know, right? I mean, we probably should have done an episode on Wednesday, but
probably,
we talked a little bit about it on Tower Casuals, and now we're here.
And we got to talk about a lot of things.
Yes. Can we kind of skip the PlayStation kerfluffle for the first little bit, because I'm really tired of hearing people being annoyed about PlayStation stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna skip that. Let's jump right into kind of where it all started, which was Jeff Keighley's opening night live.
Yep.
Some cool multi-platform announcements there. Don't want to dwell on those too much. Mafia: The Old Country and Borderlands, probably the two bigger announcements out of that.
Yeah, I would say
Um,
so.
and I mean, like both of them are going to do perfectly fine. I'm
Hmm.
actually really excited for the setting for the old country. 1900 Sicily is kind of fascinating to set a mafia game in. I think it's never been done
Hmm.
before,
Yeah,
so I really love that.
that's a interesting twist on that franchise that probably needs a better twist than it had the last time.
Yeah, I know that people really liked Mafia 3, but at least one
Yeah.
Mafia game has been canceled between 3 and now. We do
Hmm.
know that. It sounds like the full reveal is going to come at the Game Awards.
Yeah.
So hopefully that means gameplay, but that means potentially in the next year, 2K will have Mafia, NBA 2K26, Borderlands 4, and GTA 6 all launching in the next fiscal year.
Yikes.
That is obscene. They had something else too that I've already forgotten about, but they had something else. I think there were like 5 major games,
Hmm.
which was crazy. So
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff. I'm kind of surprised at how much they were. I guess I'm not surprised considering who it is, but the Borderlands 4 announcement, I'm kind of shocked there wasn't like a gameplay trailer or anything, considering they've been teasing it for like 6 months.
it feels like that, like because immediately after that they confirmed Gearbox and Randy Pitchford are having a big panel at PAX. It feels like they're going to bring the first trailer to PAX.
We'll see, because
We'll
I
see.
think
If not, it's at the Game Awards because Gearbox has a history of showing up there too.
yeah, I don't know when the Borderlands panel is at PAX. I'm gonna look it up real quick, but yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. Are people still into Borderlands? Like, is that
I don't know because the industry has shifted so much since Borderlands 3 came out, which even like the most hardcore players, like the most vocal players were like this is a departure from 2, which they didn't like.
Mhm.
They like 2 was beloved, 3 I would say significantly less so. Um I really got into 3. I didn't play 2 until years and years after it came out, but look how long it took for 3 to come out. That took God, when did Borderlands 3 came out? What, like 8, 9 years later?
Yeah. Well, remember they did that great game that Randy Pitchford always compares to Half-Life called Duke Nukem Forever in between there.
They also did Battleborn, which got me publicly
Mhm.
banned by him on Twitter
Yeah. And then
because
they
it was a free demo, and Jason Schreier called it that, and so he got into a Twitter war with Jason Schreier over it. And I was like, "Hey, Randy, you're fucking wrong," and he was like, "Hey, fuck you," and blocked me on Twitter.
and then they did that weird Duke Nukem. They didn't develop Bulletstorm, but somehow they got the rights to redevelop it, and then they put Duke Nukem in it. Remember?
I do very vaguely. Yeah, so this game came out 2019. It came out basically the same month as Gears 5, and
Hmm.
it decimated Gears 5 in terms of sales. But
Well, yeah, but Gears was also
it
on.
took 7 years for that to come out.
Hmm.
So I mean, Borderlands 4, they did lessen the gap, but they've also done Tiny Tina's in between.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I guess in between 2 and 3, they did do pre-sequel, which just didn't seem to go over well.
Hmm.
So I've seen a lot of people being like, "Oh my god, I need Borderlands 4 to go back to what 2 was all about." Borderlands 3 did not review badly, for the record. On
No.
Metacritic, has had an 80, which is not bad at all. So, but at this point, if you're playing Borderlands, you know what you're getting. Um, sure, there's probably a lot of people out there excited. I've seen some being like, "Oh, this the daddy of loot shooters is coming back," and man, it's been we've had so many games in that like subgenre since
Right.
Borderlands 2 that it's like, man, does Gearbox even know what they want to do anymore? Because like, as much as I like Tiny Tina's, the loop got really bad towards the end.
Yeah, and that whole genre has so many different iterations now that if you go back to like a basic kind of like Borderlands style looter shooter? Are people going to be happy with that? Like, because it's
Yeah.
so simple at this point? Because like I think that wasn't that the biggest kind of complaint about Borderlands 3 was like it just felt like more Borderlands and nothing really evolved, and even the villains were
The
kind of
story was
bad.
pretty mid.
Yeah.
It was just like it was hard, I think, for people to get into because Handsome Jack was so good in 2
Mm-hmm.
as a character.
Yeah.
And I think that people also got kind of attached to the Vault Dwellers in 1 and 2 as well. Like one is fine. Like Borderlands 1 is fine. Borderlands 2 was the breakout. I mean, we've talked about Gathalion, made his start at streaming with that game.
Mm-hmm.
And then moving over to Destiny a couple years later. But like, I guess that's my whole thing is like, since Borderlands 2 was king, you've had Destiny, you've had the Division. Those are probably the 2 games that have done it the best in terms of loot,
Mm-hmm.
like looter shooters. And I would say both of those are like superior to Borderlands 2 personally.
Yeah.
In terms of narrative, in terms of gameplay. Like, I think the best thing Borderlands has going forward is it's so easy to pick up and play.
Mm-hmm.
And it has an addictive loop. Like, it's one of those games, like, if I get like 60 hours out of this, I'm gonna be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of how I felt about Diablo 4. Like, okay, I put like 100 hours into Diablo 4 before seasons even came, and I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm coming back. I'll come back for the expansions, but yeah, I don't. This isn't going to be a day one purchase for me. Most likely, this will be something I just like wait and buy like 2 months later for a quarter of the price. But yeah, that Mafia is probably the more exciting one from a story perspective. It's actually doing something that's never been seen before. Hangar 18 went through some layoffs a couple of years ago. We actually didn't know if we were ever going to get another Mafia. Like a Mafia game supposedly, Mafia 4, I think, got canceled. And this was the project that survived. We knew there were 2 Mafia games in development at the time, I think. So yeah, curious to see what happens. But there were a lot of Xbox announcements.
Yeah, there were a ton.
Oh man,
including a release date for Indie.
Well, let's talk about the non PS5 games first.
Okay.
We got a new look at Towerborn.
Yep.
Which I'm stoked for Towerborn. We actually got an early access date for this. Is an interesting one, and it's brought up some pretty big arguments in the Xbox community. This game is going into early access, which we all knew, but it's going to hit Steam early access like 6 months before it comes to Xbox, which I admit I'm a little baffled by this also.
Very interesting.
It's a choice. They said early 2025 it'll come to Xbox. That makes me think whenever they do a developer direct, bam, it's available today. Which, fine, whatever. I get it. You want to put a game into early access, let PC beta test it. If you're playing it on Steam, you're paying for it. I actually don't know. I think it's coming to PC Game Pass the same day. I want to say it is. But September 10th, I've heard nothing but good things about it from people who have gotten either beta tested or have gotten to play it in person at Gamescom 2 years in a row now. So excited for that. The best comparison I've heard is a modern day Castle Crashers, and I love Castle Crashers. So that's cool. God, now I gotta pull up the list that we have of what games got announced because I'm sleeping. I'm sleepwalking right now.
Let's see. I have the list.
Yeah, I just pulled it up myself. They had a Forza Horizon 5 trailer about the this is from the actual the Xbox live streams. Okay. Never mind. That's not what I want to have pulled up.
It's the other link, I think.
Yeah, I know. I'm very tired today.
Oh, it's been a long couple of weeks.
Call of Duty 6. Call of Duty Black Ops 6. That's probably the other like really big one. They showed campaign footage. Yeah, this looks really cool.
Yeah, I'm into it.
I'm very into it. Our friend Ray was watching this and texted me right after because I actually wasn't able to watch it as it was happening right away, and he was like, "Oh my god, that was Call of Duty." So I went back and watched it. Yeah, it looks really cool. It's very espionage focused, which I think is a fun change up for the series. Doesn't always need to be just a, hey, I'm gonna run through and like shoot 300 generic soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
The multiplayer beta goes live this weekend, which I'm really excited for.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be up for a week and a half, I think. It's going to be up the 30th through the 9th. For Game Pass members. So Game Pass and pre-orders will get access to it first, and then it'll go open for the 6th to the 9th.
Yeah.
Black Ops.
I'll definitely check it out when I get home from PAX, I think.
Yeah, Black Ops looks really cool. I look forward to playing some of that this weekend. The multiplayer reveal is happening this week leading up to it. They're doing the reveal in DC, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
So looking forward to that. Looking forward to more zombies. They're continuing the story of zombies from the last time the Treyarch did it, which is cool. I'm trying to find the actual like Xbox specific stuff. There were some other cool multiplayer things. They show more Marvel Rivals, which I think looks really good, shockingly. I kind of clowned on this game when it got announced, but man, it's going to be free to play and all heroes are going to be free. Really stoked for that.
What a bold move. So I guess they're monetizing through battle passes and skins and stuff, probably like Fortnite, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's like the only way you can really like kind of compete with Overwatch at this point for an arena shooter.
I mean, we kind of see what's happening with Concord right now, and
I feel really bad for that team.
I know, I do too, because I'm sure, like mechanically, I'm sure it's really good.
That's what I've heard. Like, but man, Sony is really trying to make it happen right now. It's been a while since I saw every studio from like a studio group tweet about the game and be like, we're all live streaming it and this and that. And it's like, damn, that was on the day that only had like 500 players to begin with.
Yeah,
that's pretty rough.
I think it was like there was like 700 and something people watching it on Twitch, and like 620 of them were on Data's sponsored stream or something. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. I also saw the Steam database numbers. The highest it had within 24 hours of release was 700 players, I believe. That was less than Lord of the Rings and Gollum had in its first 24 hours.
Jeez.
So if you want an example of how bad this was doing on Steam. Dune Awakening looks super cool. I'm stoked for this. This game looks awesome. I had not seen a single ounce of footage. I got it confused with Spice Wars because I thought it was an RTS this whole time. So when I saw this in action, I was like, oh, this is not what I thought at all. This looks very cool.
Yeah, it's really, really cool.
Don't know if it's something I'll buy at full price, but it is something I will check out eventually. Very, very excited for that. Monster Hunter Wilds, of course, looks great. I'm not a big Monster Hunter fan, but a lot of people in my life are. So
yeah, I'm gonna give it a whirl. That trailer, the combat and like the way it looks and the way it like presented itself made me download Rise off of Game Pass. And I know it's not the same thing. I guess Worlds would have been the one to do, but I don't feel like paying for that.
In terms of things that had me scratching my head, Monument Valley 3 gets announced, and I really love the first two games. Monument Valley 3 is coming exclusively to Netflix, though.
Yeah.
So yeah, good.
Well, they own that studio, right? Netflix owns this.
They might now. I actually don't remember
what the studio's name is, but I feel like they own.
I actually don't remember. They probably do at this point. Like, and it's going to be a good game. It's just like, man, you're putting it. Just Netflix's whole strategy with games is weird. They also own the. I'm sure it's going to come to phones and consoles at some point, but yeah, that was strange. The coolest announcement I think of the day was Secret Level, the Amazon Prime series. We had a really long talk about this on Tower Casual, so I'll kind of spare everybody the long and the short of it. But this looks really, really cool. An anthology series covering 15 different franchises, one of which is Concord.
Yeah. I hope they make Concord look cool because I don't know, man.
Yeah. This series looks really rad though. We saw shots of Kratos, of Jin Sakai from Ghost of Tsushima. Pac-Man, Mega Man, The Outer Worlds, Armored Core, starring Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, which is nuts.
Yeah, there were some really, really rad games as part of this. Dungeons and Dragons is going to be a part of it. I
That's
think this
probably
is
what
going
got you.
to do what?
I said I know that's probably what got you was Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh man, all of it got me. I thought it looked awesome. I really love Blur, and I think them doing a series like this 4 games. Because I love Death and Robots, so I was really excited to see this. I think this is cool. Um, kind of interested to see if this is going to be like a recurring thing for them, so they can just play in all these worlds and not just be restricted to like the few games that they were making cutscenes for still, like
Right.
Call of Duty.
Mm-hmm.
So curious. Some of the other games that are going to be in there: Unreal Tournament, which we're both very big into; Warhammer 40K, Sifu, Splunky. This is going to be really cool.
Yeah, very excited for this.
Very excited.
It's what? It's Amazon, right?
Yeah, Amazon is releasing this in December 10th, I believe, is the release date.
Nice.
So
This is gonna be
in
a
other
good. This is gonna be a good Christmas break watch for me. I think.
oh man, I can't wait. I can't wait. That is going to be a really busy week because that comes out. That's an indie comes out. That's when Marvel Rivals comes out, and the Game Awards are all happening like that same week.
Yeah.
Starfield. I liked how they did this trailer. I just don't know if we really needed it as a trailer promoting that the Rev 8 vehicle is in game now to quickly traverse planets.
Mm-hmm.
They filmed it like a car commercial, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know if we really needed to take time to do this. This feels like it's something that you should have just put on your stream instead.
Yeah.
There were Vessel of Hatred was there. That's cool. I dig more Diablo. You can hire mercenaries now. That's cool. I like that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And then we had a couple head scratchers. Squid Game Unleashed, the game from Netflix. Feels like you really missed the point of it. So, and then Peter Molyneux showed up to show off his new game, Masters
Fable
of
5.
Albion. Masters of Albion, which I do not understand the people who were like, this game looks awesome. I saw no less than 5 or 6 journalists just losing their shit over this. And I was like, I don't know what you see in this. This looks terrible to me.
It's something. It's something. I'm going to leave it at that.
It's something. He revealed he may get sued for the name of the game.
Shocker. Really?
So Albion is, we talked about this a little bit, is a generic term for like medieval England. But that is also firmly established as the name of the world in Fable.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, well, if I was smarter, I would have talked to lawyers about this before going out on stage. I'm like, oh God, Jeff Keighley walked right into this one. Civ 7 was there. Excited for everybody who likes Civ 7. Genshin Impact is coming to Xbox. Arc Raiders continues to be just vaporware as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
And then the big granddaddy announcement that had people upset: Indiana Jones and the Great Circle.
Yeah.
This game. Let's start with the game. The game looks phenomenal.
Dude, it looks awesome. Like, even if you're not an Indiana Jones fan,
this game looks great.
Oh, I can't wait.
I cannot wait. Troy Baker narrated the trailer. We were seeing some of the mocap. Mm-hmm. It looks like just awesome mocap, awesome performances. The game looks better than when we saw it a couple months ago at the reveal already.
Every time they show this game, re-show this game, it looks better.
It looks better and better every time. Every time. When I saw what they showed during opening night, I was like, man, why didn't Xbox just do their own show?
Yeah.
And then the answer for that became abundantly clear at the end. They had one more thing. So they announced this is coming out December 9th. It is coming to Game Pass, and it'll be on Steam, and it'll be on Xbox. And then they announced that next year it is coming to PlayStation 5.
Mm-hmm.
And this has got people really riled up on both sides of this. The console wars have reignited. I am really sick of console warring. These are plastic boxes. They're plastic boxes. Phil's whole mantra has always been, when we all get to play, we all win. That was exemplified, I think, all week at Gamescom, between between the announcement of the adaptive thumbsticks that are coming out.
What a great announcement.
What a great fucking announcement. The shoulder pad as well. I really love stuff like that, and like how they're going to make the files available for you to go to any 3D printer and use them. Just fantastic work here.
Yeah. That is a win for Microsoft for sure.
That is a huge win for me. That's a huge win, especially with how they've like made their adaptive controllers work with any console. Except I believe they don't work on PlayStation.
Yeah,
correct me if I'm wrong.
I think that's a PlayStation thing. I don't think that's
they have their. I know they have their own now. So
yeah,
which also great device, by the way. But I do believe they got it to work with the Switch. I believe Nintendo let them work with it on the Switch. Obviously, works on PCs. People are really upset though, because they're like, well, there's even less of a reason to buy an Xbox now. First of all, half of y'all weren't going to play this game anyways. It's Indiana Jones. Like that is not a property like Spider-Man or like Star Wars or something like that. It is a smaller property, and that's kind of what we said about Blade when they revealed it. Like, these are smaller IPs. These are the ones Microsoft will be able to get as exclusives, barring that they bring them to other platforms eventually. And that's their whole strategy now, is that like, hey, yes, certain games are going to go multi-platform. I think the biggest thing is there's just confusion, because this was revealed in the court filings to be an exclusive.
Yeah,
but also they reversed course.
Yeah, and I have some theories about this, Josh.
Go ahead.
I think it's, first of all, when they bought Activision Blizzard, I'm sure they didn't plan on spending time in court for 2 years trying to fight this thing, right?
No, they knew there would be some fights, but I think they planned on having this resolved like a year earlier than they did.
Yeah. Indiana Jones, they were hyping the movie, right? The new movie. And I think Disney and maybe even Microsoft thought it was going to be bigger than it was. And it, as much as I enjoyed it, like, it just wasn't, it wasn't, right? I mean, I think we can all safely say that it wasn't the hit they planned on it being. And Xbox is just not selling, and their subscriptions aren't going up, and so they need to make up the money. They need to make up the money somewhere. And like you said, the business strategy has changed since they made that exclusive deal, and that's why it's happening. And to be honest with you, I don't really care that it's happening. And like, I don't even, and people are like, well, what about the people that only bought Xbox? Well, it's coming to Xbox, so you can still play it. you can still play it on Game Pass, 3 to 6 months early. So I don't know. And I think that was what we discussed at one point, right? Was we were like, we think that Bethesda games are going to come to PlayStation. And our thought was like, Activision Blizzard games are day and date. Bethesda games will probably be some sort of timed exclusive at some point, and then our original thought was that Xbox Game Studios games would be the exclusive ones, but they kind of threw that out the window with Sea of Thieves. So
I'm like, and I was okay with those initial 4 when they announced them, because it was Sea of Thieves, which we got a little bit on Sea of Thieves to come up later on. Pentiment, Hi-Fi Rush, and Grounded and Sea of Thieves, probably your 2 most successful new IPs in terms of money this generation. Both of them have sold extremely well. They've more than made their budgets back. People kind of forget Sea of Thieves had a really rocky launch. It took about 18 months to get it to this game that we know now, and they've just continued adding on to it. That game was horrible when it launched.
Yeah. Well, we had that conversation with Jeff Gardner, right? Where he said, a game as a service, you have to be willing to put out a 7 and then build on it, right? Because that's what.
And the more important thing, I think, to take away from that also was not just you have to be willing to release a 7, you have to have a parent company that is willing to invest.
Yeah.
And that is something that we have not seen from Sony. That is something I think that old Bethesda didn't want to do either. Microsoft, on the other hand, has put out consistently great multiplayer experiences since the original Xbox.
Right.
I think back to the OG Xbox, and I think of Halo. I think at launch, I think of Halo and Project Gotham. I think of Fusion Frenzy. Not even a year later, they launched Xbox Live with Mech Assault, which is a huge hit for them.
Mm-hmm.
But even later on in that original Xbox era, yeah, I remember when they got the EA Sports games there, that was huge. Before that, we had XSN. You remember those games?
Yeah, the NFL with steroided out Peyton Manning on the cover. Yeah,
We had NFL Fever. We had NBA something. We had
Inside Drive.
Inside Drive. We had Amped. They had the original Topspin games.
Yep.
Like
Oh man, Amped. What a
those were all. Oh God, I love the Amped games so much. But they made those, and then they got like Microsoft has understood online gaming and multiplayer gaming for as long as they have been making games.
Yep.
And so like if they're willing to take chances on these games, like they'll launch something and they'll sit there and like they didn't really do it in the back end of the 360 or at the beginning of Xbox One, but they have definitely shown a willingness, I think, since Phil took over, since he used to run those studios,
Mm-hmm.
of no, if we think there's the potential here, we're going to let them work on it.
Mm-hmm.
Just at some point you have to just get something out and start getting feedback, and that was kind of the point Sea of Thieves was getting to.
Mm-hmm.
Conversely, Grounded is one of those games. It's kind of come out that it came out in the last week or two that yeah, that game probably wouldn't have made it out if not for COVID, funny enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like people said that COVID actually probably saved Grounded. We don't know if it saved Pentiment. It definitely got the Outer Worlds 2 greenlit quickly. And it did something else over at that studio, but it changed the way that they thought about games and about how they thought about the scope of Avowed and things like that. So I really, really admire the forward thinking there. And I think, we had all thought 76 was going to get shut down once Microsoft took over. And instead,
Yeah.
Microsoft has dumped even more money into it. And it's like, no, we're going to do big expansions for this. There's a player base here. There's a player base to be nurtured. And so when I see things like that, I see a company that's willing to take those chances and build on these, but also a company that like is at the mercy of shareholders and a CEO that does not understand gaming.
Mm-hmm.
There's only so much Phil can do before having to answer to Phil and Sarah and Matt all ultimately have a boss, Satya Nadella.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever him and the accountants want to do is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I do think they were told, hey, this license was really expensive. You got to put it on another plot. You got to put it elsewhere. You got to have another game going. So I understand the confusion when we look at these games because, well, Doom is coming day and date. Indiana Jones is coming out like 6-7 months later, and Starfield has no planned release. A lot of us felt Starfield was going to get announced to come to PS5 with Shattered Space.
Yeah, I kind of thought that way, that it was, right? I mean,
I guess now I would say it's probably going to be. So there's a rumor that there are multiple big expansions in the work for Starfield right now.
Yeah.
That are all like Shattered Space sized, which Shattered Space is a $30 expansion. I expect something to be Far Harbor or bigger in terms of an expansion, and it supposedly is self-contained, which I really like.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see what that happens there, because at this point I don't think any of us would be mad if Starfield came over. Like
I would.
We all kind of accepted when they announced it, like, yeah, this is probably going to come to PS5 eventually.
Yeah. That was the thing I was surprised wasn't announced at this thing.
Yeah, I was absolutely certain that was the one that was going to get out. There were a lot of rumors going around that Forza Horizon 5 was getting announced to come over, which I thought that one was a little far-fetched. I'm actually really glad that we didn't have time to talk about that, that we didn't have a show that week, because that one, to me, that feels like you're jumping the shark, and I feel like that's one that Sony would fight to keep off of its platform, funny enough, because Horizon is the best racer in the game. So, like, why would you want that competing directly with Gran Turismo? And it does stuff that Gran Turismo doesn't do. I think that at the end of the day, it coming to PS5 is not the end of the world for Indiana Jones to come over. If that's the price we have to pay for Microsoft Studios to get to work with third-party IPs, bring it on.
Mm-hmm.
Give me that limited exclusivity window. Give me, 6 to 12 months of exclusivity. I really wish they wouldn't have announced this before the game was out. I think that's my biggest critique is I would have preferred if we got into next year and then they announced like, oh, hey, by the way, this is coming to PS5 in a couple months, just like they did with Sea of Thieves and all that. I would have preferred if we had gotten through like that first quarter that indie was available and then you announce it. Um, I don't know if they're hoping that maybe that'll drive interest or whatever, because I did see like more people were interested in it all of a sudden because it's come to the PlayStation.
Oh, I know.
You know, that's the gauge apparently for what's a good Xbox game these days, is if it comes to PlayStation.
Right.
Which I think it's fucking stupid. Like, right? Like, what's the point of owning an Xbox? Man, if your friends are there, if you enjoy the ecosystem, like I certainly do. I prefer it over the PlayStation ecosystem personally.
So do I. I don't turn my PlayStation on unless there's an exclusive over there at this point. You know, I mean
right. And I mean, like, it's funny because it kind of all goes back to that Phil Spencer comment about, you know, where your digital libraries are. And for you and I, it's on Xbox. And like when I inevitably make the move to, I will eventually make the move to PC. I'll probably always keep an Xbox in the living room just because I can. Yeah. Sometimes I want to play a game on the couch.
Well, you would imagine at some point the libraries will be unified if their strategy is going the way they want it to, right? I mean,
yeah, my problem with that is the Windows app or the Windows, like the Xbox app on Windows is so dog shit that I'd rather kind of just rebuy my games on Steam.
Yeah.
But that's how bad it is. Yeah. So now if they make it to where I can play Steam on the next Xbox, like is being heavily rumored with multiple storefronts, then I think you're cooking.
Yeah. I think the big problem, which is I think why they haven't like 100% done that yet, is the backwards compatibility thing.
Yep.
Because I mean, original Xbox and 360 games can't be played on PC, obviously. And so that would be my thing is like
that would have to remain a console exclusive.
Yeah. So I don't know how you get around that, or if like, which is why I still think like some sort of like Gears or Fable collection would come over at some point, because those games are not native on most of those games aren't native on PC.
I would assume that most Xbox games that people love that are not available on Steam currently would come at some point. Like, and at this point, it would basically need to be like the Gears collection, the Fable collection. You know, Forza's already come out on there.
Lost Odyssey.
I don't even know who owns the rights to Lost Odyssey and Blue Dragon anymore. I assume it's still Mistwalker.
Yeah.
I'm sure that wouldn't be super hard to work out. Bethesda games are already on there. Activision Blizzard games. That Activision Blizzard is another one that's kind of a hurdle to jump.
Yeah, because of BattleNet.
Historically, Blizzard games, especially. But I kind of wonder if they would do something along those lines. Tom Henderson was tweeting out earlier this week about how there was another, how he had heard that for handheld consoles. So he was saying almost everyone at Gamescom gave interesting hardware discussions about handhelds. My hunch is you should save your money a little longer if you're planning to buy one. Seems like a lot more options and improvements are coming soon, but I'm not sure on exact timelines. One of the top replies to him asked any chance of a dedicated PlayStation handheld, and he says, well, the Portal was really successful and they're paying very close attention to the current handheld market. We basically know that Xbox is building a handheld at this point. So I'm really, really curious. I like that people are like, oh my God, you know, it's because of the PlayStation Portal. No, it's because of the fucking Switch.
Yeah.
It's because the Switch is literally one of the most profitable consoles of all time, behind only the PlayStation 2 at this point.
Right.
Like, it is, and if you can get like we've talked so many times about how like, and I it's funny because it's going to come up again. Like the Series S is holding gaming back. Like, not really. Like it's just we have hit a point where you now are plateauing in terms of what can be done with graphics.
Yep,
we're hitting a plateau. And like the current consoles can't really go further than they are. But I mean, if you could get a handheld console from Microsoft that has the specs of the Series S in it next generation, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, and then, oh, your dedicated home console would be your premium offering.
Right. The
But
thing that
everything would clearly be geared towards the minimum specs of the handheld. And I mean, like, when you look at things that are deck verified, like Baldur's Gate 3, for instance, runs great on the Steam Deck.
right.
Like,
I mean, Steam Deck HQ just put out that Star Wars Outlaws is Steam Deck verified now,
mm-hmm.
apparently. So it's like, come on, that game is like huge. And that's the thing
um,
that makes me mad about when companies are like dogging the Series S. And like, again, I'm not like a technical person or anything, but like they get these games running on these low end PCs and these, the Steam Deck or the Ally, and it's like, what makes the Series S so much different than that, aside that it's an Xbox and not like a handheld PC?
I wanted to read a few tweets from Daniel Ahmad, who is a an industry analyst, primarily focusing on the Asia markets, but usually has pretty good insights about the platform holders. And he tweeted out last week during all the Gamescom stuff. One thing people fundamentally misunderstood about the Xbox understand about the Xbox strategy is they don't necessarily benefit from keeping games exclusive to their own console. This may have been different if Xbox consoles were the market leader and cloud took off, but they were inevitably going to end up down this path where it made sense for them to open up to competing platforms as another entry point because it increases profitability. I'll be the first to admit their console facing strategy needs work, but at the same time, there are various incentives, including exclusive games, digital libraries, Game Pass, friend groups, etc., to keep the console in play. Even if Microsoft were to go back to a 100% console only strategy, it's unlikely they'd end up shifting enough units to cover rising costs. Even PlayStation, as the market leader in terms of revenue, are having to diversify offerings. And then, his final comment: the most played games on both consoles are Fortnite, Roblox, EAFC, Call of Duty, Madden, 2K, GTA. You get the point. Sure, console exclusives matter, especially with the early adopters, but the average console gamer wants to play one of those games with a bunch of friends, and Xbox does that just fine and has other games and perks on top, which is where I'm at this point. Like, we want to play with our friends ultimately. Who fucking cares about the sales of a plastic box? Like, yeah, at some point, Xbox is probably going to go third party.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there has been talk about, oh, Xbox is maybe able to be made by other companies like Asus down the line or something, because they're going to basically be Steam boxes,
Mm-hmm.
or there'll be boxes that have multiple um, storefronts on them. Like, I would love it if I could sit there and play games off of Steam on my couch with my Xbox controller.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love that without having to build a PC. I would love that.
Yep.
I would love to be able to do that. I would love to, be able, oh, I can just flip over and access GOG or the Epic Store or something like that. Like, let me access these competing storefronts. Yeah. Oh, I want to play something on Game Pass. Oh, cool. Let me switch over to the Xbox tab.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see what's there. Oh, like this game's on like super sale on Xbox. Oh, okay. I'm gonna buy it here, and oh, it's part of Play Anywhere. I can play it wherever I want to. I can take it on the go with my handheld and install it natively. Like, that's probably the biggest thing that a dedicated Xbox handheld would have is you can natively install these games and take them with you on the go, which is the coolest thing when you consider something like a ROG Ally. You can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine an actual dedicated console like that with a UI that actually works.
Right.
And that's why I think it's really cool that the ROG is actually going to have Steam OS running on it here pretty soon. They're working on it
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this, like the way that the handheld PCs are working is the way that VR probably should have worked at some
Yep.
point. Is where like all these heads, like you have multiple headset manufacturers, but then like you can put multiple storefronts on it, which is a conversation for a different day. But I'm also seeing like I think that's where Xbox's head is at now, is like this is gonna happen eventually, maybe 10 or 15 years down the road. We should get ahead of this and be the premier box of like, hey, if you're playing Fortnite, here's you can go to the Epic Store or play it from the Xbox, or here's your Steam library, here's your GOG library, and like be ahead of it. Just be
Right.
ahead of it. And the people who want to buy games on Xbox can still buy them through Xbox, and the people who want to buy them through Steam can play it
More
through Steam.
importantly, you can access your legacy libraries.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's probably where we're headed with all of this. I don't really have anything else to add on that subject, just because I think it's
Yeah.
gotten so ridiculous, and like I was
Oh
just
yeah.
kind of muting or blocking anybody who was talking about it on my timeline, because I'm exhausted.
It's so annoying at this
It's
point.
so annoying. I'm exhausted. There's better things to talk about with my life and my time. Fuck that. Just fuck that all the way. I was so ridiculously tired.
Yeah.
I will say, Jason Schreier nailed it head on a couple days after all those Daniel Ahmad tweets, and said the problem with Xbox's new vision isn't that the company is moving away from console exclusives, it's that their release strategy is messy, confusing, and inconsistent.
That I agree
And
with.
I agree wholeheartedly with that. He made the same comparison that we did earlier. 3 games from Bethesda, 3 different strategies. Starfield, no PlayStation release. Indiana Jones, timed exclusive. Doom, same day. It's a mess, and the people running Xbox are confounding and enraging even their most hardcore fans, which is absolutely true, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And Jez Corden wrote something the other day where, like, I know he has various degrees of opinions and whatever, but like the headline of the article was Xbox is losing their most important exclusive, which is their fans, and it was all about like not that like Xbox is doing a bad job of producing games or anything, but it's their messaging and their communication to the fans and like what's going where and how's it going, and you know, basically what this article is saying.
yeah, I think a lot of people are just like, let's just rip the band-aid off at this
Mm-hmm.
point.
Yeah.
Just come out and say that. And I think they're being really coy, in particular with Bethesda.
Mm-hmm.
Like they can drip feed the Microsoft Game Studios games all they want. Fine. Like Sea of Thieves came after years.
Mm-hmm.
It had been out for like 5-6 years by the time it came out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that made sense. It's a multiplayer game. Cool, you're growing your base. You kind of hit a plateau in terms of how much you could grow on Xbox and Steam. It sold 1 million copies since April.
Mm-hmm.
It sold over 1 million copies. Grounded saw another pretty big swell. It's feature complete. They're not doing any more updates to it after the final update that came with the PS5 and Switch release. It's sold great. Like for a little $20 game, that sold great. Pentiment has gotten a new life with some of these people. That was always going to be a niche game, and unfortunately, Hi-Fi Rush never found that same audience.
Yeah.
But it made sense, respectfully, for those 3 Xbox Studios games to come over.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say if you're an Xbox fan, I wouldn't hit the panic button until something like Halo or Forza or Gears comes to PlayStation.
Yeah.
That is when I would start sounding the alarm and be like, okay,
Would you
everything's
say
going to come.
would you
Everything's going to come
say
to PlayStation.
older Gears and Halo, or just all Gears and Halo?
I think in general. Because if the older games come over, then that absolutely means they're testing the waters for the more recent ones to come over.
Yeah.
Daniel did say in the comments of Jason's tweets that they need to rip the Band-Aid off, but he doesn't think that they will until the next gen console announcements, which I agree with.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is going to get dragged out quite a while longer. I would suspect the reason they're not coming out making a definitive statement is they want to see how the next launch goes first.
Mm-hmm.
Because the 2 most valuable IP that they have at Bethesda are Elder Scrolls and Fallout.
Mm-hmm.
And they would really love to say, we are the only place you can play Elder Scrolls.
Mm-hmm.
We are the only console you can play Elder Scrolls on.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that is their game here. I think that's their goal, is to be able to come out and say that. But every time that game gets pushed back more and more, the harder that is going to be for them to make as an argument. I already think Fallout's an impossible argument that you're not going to win. I think they are desperately hoping to be able to cling to Elder Scrolls and say, this is an Xbox-only game. Fallout, with the success of the show, I think is going to have to go multi-platform. It may not be right away,
Mm-hmm.
but it will be within like a year of release. And when they first bought Bethesda, we had speculated that eventually they were going to have to walk this one back, but it was going to be tooth and nail if you did it.
Yeah.
Because at the time, Series X hadn't come out yet when they announced the buy. And we were like, oh my God, this bolsters their library in such a cool way. And then you fumble through like the first 3.5 years of this generation.
Right.
Again. And you you can't hold those. Like if the climate had been, and I maintain, if you hadn't gone after Activision Blizzard, you probably could have done this. If Redfall wasn't the way it was, you probably could have kept these games exclusive. That, for me, that was the turning point.
Yep.
The minute Redfall didn't do good, and the minute that Starfield came out and did not have like Game of the Year written all over it, that was difficult.
Yep.
That was real difficult on them. And yeah, Starfield has like an 83 on Metacritic. It's not a bad game.
No.
83 is not bad.
Mm-mm.
But we're so conditioned in society these days to freak out over. People are freaking out over Outlaws having a 78. That's 1 point lower than Jedi Fallen Order had on Metacritic, by the way.
Yeah.
Which is insane because Fallen Order was Game of the Year that year. But it just goes to show, like, hey, you know, this is what can happen. I think that at a certain point, though, Microsoft does owe the fans who are really upset an actual explanation and not just beating around the bush.
Yep, I agree.
It's probably not coming for a long time, but if I'm Microsoft, after this Indiana Jones announcement, I would be real quiet and not announce anything else next year that's going to come to other consoles. I would just keep my mouth shut because you have people so upset. To me, this confirmed, and we said this back when they showed it off at the Game Awards last year, Kojima's game is 100% going to go to PlayStation eventually.
Oh, yeah.
100%. Again, I suspect that was part of the deal is, hey, we get to promote this as an exclusive for like a year, and then it's coming to PlayStation.
I wouldn't even give it a year at this point.
This is supposedly the game that PlayStation did not want.
Yep.
But that was under the Jim Ryan regime. It would not surprise me if they came back to the table and were like, well, we want this.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep.
I don't know. We'll have to see. But yeah, hardcore fans really, really upset about all this.
Yeah.
It's the people that this is really hurting are the people who only have the money for one console.
Mm-hmm.
That is who is getting hurt the most here. That is likely who is upset the most. Is people who own like an Xbox and maybe they have a Switch, right? If you own an Xbox and a PlayStation, you're probably not upset about this at all. You know? And I love the people who are like, well, you know, if you have a PC, you don't need an Xbox. Yeah, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
Don't forget, people were all up in arms in 2018 and 2019 when they started announcing games were going to come to Steam day and date. They were furious about that.
Yeah, what was it?
Not even Steam. It was just coming to the Windows app. They were furious.
Yeah, what was it? Quantum Break was the first kind of Play Anywhere title.
Quantum Break was the one that people lost their shit over Quantum Break. And then, I mean, there were people who threw their Xboxes out windows over that. There's videos of it.
Mm-hmm.
Screaming at Phil Spencer on Twitter and this and that. That was back when he still engaged with people on Twitter. And then the other one I remember was when it was at E3. I want to say it was 2018? They announced Sea of Thieves and Forza Horizon 4 were going to be day one PC games. And people lost their shit over that, and not in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
They were so upset. And Microsoft, I think COVID kind of saved their asses on that.
Mm-hmm.
People were mad about it for like a year, and then COVID happened. They kind of forgot about it. And every game just very quietly came to Steam. And now we accept it as the norm, to the point where we're asking PlayStation to do this.
Yeah.
Like, they very quietly shifted our perception of that. Also, Jeff Gardner talked about this with us. There are more PC players than console players now, which blows my mind. That has never been a thing for as long as I can remember. But PCs are so much more accessible and affordable. You can get an entry-level PC or a gaming laptop for just a little bit more than a console at this point. Like the 1070 or 1080 card, whatever it was, really boosted the PC industry.
Isn't that crazy?
That is wild to me. And that so many games still run with that.
Yeah.
Today. So, but you have the ability to customize and keep rebuilding your PC and this and that. And I think that's a great thing. I'm getting more and more into it the more I learn about PCs. And yeah, at some point I'll probably cease to be an Xbox primary gamer. I'll be playing the Xbox game still, but it'll be through Steam.
Mm-hmm.
Or it'll be through Game Pass on my PC. Like that's fine.
Yeah.
That's totally fine to me. And I don't understand why. Like, I get why you would be upset if it's the only box you own. I get it. I understand the argument of it devalues the console. I'm sympathetic to that.
I mean, I guess, but like also,
You're still getting these games first.
yeah, and you're still getting the games. Period. Like
Yeah,
I don't know, man. I just feel
you're
like
getting the games first. I think the bigger issue they're going to be facing is that games are skipping the Series S and X because Microsoft has the parity clause that it has to run on both. Because they committed to that publicly, and only 2 games have given them trouble with it, but it's going to become more prevalent as we go down the line. Yeah, Black Myth Wukong is the latest one. I kind of want to segue into that since we're talking platforms.
yeah,
It supposedly is not coming to Xbox because of a memory leak in the Series S.
yep,
Which way smarter people than me have tried to explain that. And I don't understand what that means.
yeah. I don't know what it means either.
Basically, the game is too powerful to run on the hardware of the Series S. Something is fucked up in the code somewhere.
Hmm.
And okay, fine. Baldur's Gate 3 was a very complex issue. Like, we've eventually figured out that was because of the couch co-op.
Yep.
And because of how objects are generated in Baldur's Gate 3. Like, well, PlayStation 5 didn't have that. Yeah, PlayStation 5 didn't. The Series S is a budget-friendly, more affordable console, which, by the way, is probably going to be the norm versus pro consoles going forward.
Yeah.
It's just going to be a handheld instead of an actual, like, cheaper box.
Right.
So, like, okay, Black Myth Wukong didn't come over, just like, Baldur's Gate 3 didn't. Wukong will come out eventually, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Also worth noting that, it is from a Chinese studio. Xbox does not sell in China.
No.
So they probably don't have a whole lot of game science, probably doesn't have a lot of experience working with Xbox. And that's like, it's okay. It's okay. It's fine. Just, this is no different than a third-party exclusive at this point.
Yeah. Everyone, it's okay.
Does it suck that it's the second year in a row that a Game of the Year candidate is not on there for a technical reason? Yes. Is that immensely frustrating? Yes. Is it the end of the world? No. This is a really weird game that people are picking to die on the hill of.
Yeah.
I don't get it. But for, in China, I understand. Like, this is the biggest game in China's history.
Yeah.
They took national holidays to play this game.
Yeah.
That is insane to me. That would be like us taking off to play like Elden Ring. Not even Elden Ring. That's technically Japanese. That'd be like us taking off for like the next Legend of Zelda. Nope, that's also Japanese. God damn it. Call of Duty.
Indiana Jones.
Swedish.
Yeah.
That'd be like us taking off to play Call of Duty, essentially. Jeez. Or like college football,
Yep.
Like, it is what it is. So I get it. I do think that Phil has to come out and be open about this at some point, though, and maybe walk that parity clause back, which I know that if he does, he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't.
Yeah, but I think more people would be okay if he did. Like, I feel like more people.
I think so too.
More people would be okay if he did. Because as long as it plays Madden and Fortnite and Call of Duty, I don't think the normal person would.
The normal gamer does not give a shit.
Yeah. Or at least like run certain games, like the Baldur's Gate thing. Oh, it doesn't have couch co-op. Oh well, this is what happens when you buy this box instead of this box. You know.
Yeah,
what I mean? Like,
and I get, but I understand like why people would do it as a gotcha, because they promised full parity. Any game you can play on both.
Right, but that was also like, how long ago that was too. At this point, too, I mean,
I'm well aware. At this point, like, if you wanted to play Baldur's Gate, I actually do know somebody who was very upset they could not play Baldur's Gate on their Series S. That was all that them and their partner owned in terms of that, and they did not want to play it on PlayStation 5. They own a PS5. They did not want to play it on PS5. They want to play it on Xbox. They like the Xbox controllers better, things like that. And they waited and waited and waited. And hats off to you for waiting. But I think that Wukong is going to be way less of an issue between you and me.
Yeah.
I think Baldur's Gate, it was a thing because Baldur's Gate became this cultural revolution out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we knew it was going to be big on PC, and then it comes out and it's huge. You immediately want it on your console, this and that. It was announced for PS5. The real reason why it wasn't announced for Series X right away comes out and is apparent. Like, Microsoft was busting their ass to get that one fixed. They're not doing that with Wukong.
Yeah.
I just like kind of know, like, when it gets fixed, like, this is a you issue. This is not an us issue. This is a you issue.
Yeah.
So Like, it runs on Series X, supposedly. I think Microsoft may just get to a point where they're like, hey, put it on Series X and we'll eventually let it be on Series S.
Yeah.
They're going to have to break that parity cause. I just don't think that it's going to...
It's going to happen. It's going to happen when...
It's not going to happen over Black Myth Wukong. Let me put it that way.
No, I think when it's going to happen, it's going to be the next generation of consoles are going to come out and they're going to be like, hey, these games run on Series X, but not the S.
I think it's going to be Grand Theft Auto 6.
You think?
I think it's going to be GTA 6. I think they're going to come out because that is a game where it makes sense to do that.
Yeah.
To break your parity clause.
Yep.
And say, fuck it, we can't hold it anymore. You can only play it on Series X, which is still the cheaper option.
Yeah.
But like, you can only play it on Series X. We've been saying for a while we think that the S is going to get cycled out eventually.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're just going to replace it with the handheld, honestly. But that handheld's probably like summer 26 at the earliest at this point.
Yeah.
I can't fathom them releasing it next year and then doing a new box the year after. I can't imagine a more disastrous rollout. You got to roll them both out at the same time. So there's definitely some questions to be asked there, I would say. But absolutely fascinating. Like, to close all this out, Gamescom, it's great. Lots of interesting conversation. I did want to read one note from Jez Corden here in his piece about Sea of Thieves selling over 1 million copies on PlayStation. Trusted sources have indicated to me Sea of Thieves has crossed 1 million sales on PlayStation since its launch, and it's most likely higher since this information came to me. The game is currently selling for $40, so even when you disregard in-app purchases from the Emporium, that's at least $40 million additional income for Rare to hire and invest in growing that game out. You might wonder if the brand damage to Xbox is worth the income, though. Echoing previous comments made to investors by Satya Nadella, it doesn't seem to be having a material impact on the growth of total Xbox and Series XS console players, at least for now. So, I do think that they will bring more live service games over. Again, I think that Halo, Forza, Gears are kind of like the three untouchables from Microsoft, but I think if a Microsoft studio were to make a multiplayer game, which I don't think any of the other ones are actually going to make multiplayer games, to be totally clear.
Yeah.
I think they want them working on single player. Like Towerborn, that's being made by an outside studio. That's probably coming to PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
And it'd be stupid not to, especially if it's going to be free to play.
Right.
It'd be really stupid not to put that on another platform.
Right.
But I think that you're going to see that Bethesda and like they've already committed Activision Blizzard games are going to be multi-platform. I think your exception will be if they make new IP. Mm-hmm. New IP are always the exception. Mm-hmm. But existing franchises and multiplayer games like Diablo, they can never have Diablo be an Xbox exclusive. That'll just never work.
Right.
Also, that was a condition of... Jesus, people are yelling again.
That is yelling in your apartment building.
We have really like thin windows, so I hear a lot of stuff from outside. It's particularly the people who have the garage underneath me.
I just feel like people are always yelling.
It's the same guy. I think he's just yelling on the phone. There's nobody else arguing with him this time, so I think it's a good thing. So at some point, though, probably next generation, you will see things like Halo, Forza, and Gears come to PlayStation.
Yeah,
and that's okay. That's part of their goal of being on every screen.
Yep,
it's gonna happen eventually. But like, you know, if you can sit here and be like, yeah, you can still play this shit first on Xbox, fine. Especially in terms of the single player stuff, like fine. Yeah. Or you can wait and play it on your preferred platform. But there's gonna be a perk too if you own the console.
Yeah,
or if you play in that ecosystem.
Right.
You know,
or
go build a PC. Go build a PC if you're that upset about it.
Or, you know, the secret thing here is that you're going to be able to play PlayStation games on your Xbox if the Steam store comes.
Yeah, you just have to wait like 4 years.
Yeah, but you know. I mean, that's what PlayStation players are doing to Xbox games, waiting.
Yeah.
You know.
So, well, we had some other stuff come out.
We did.
We had 30 minutes of Avowed footage come out.
We did.
This game looks fucking awesome. Yeah. I'm so this is probably my most anticipated game right now.
Yeah.
This looks really, really good. I have enjoyed that a lot of people who are like, "Oh, this game looks bad. Oh, I don't know what the point of this game is," have like basically walked it. Looking at you, Dustin Legary, have basically come out and been like, "Nah, this game's fucking awesome. I got to play 30 minutes of it and it's great." Um, I'm really, really looking forward to this. I am trying to stay away from the footage as best as I can
Mm-hmm.
because I want to go in totally blind. I love the world of Pillars of Eternity. I love the world of Eora. Very, very excited for this to explore another corner of that universe. Um,
It looks
but
cool.
yeah, it looks really cool. They did a big event out in Los Angeles for journalists who were not going to Gamescom, which I think this is a great idea, and they should do this more often. I think Xbox kind of knows what they're doing at this point. They had an event where you could play this. I believe Stalker was there. Towerborn, Metaphor was one of their big showcased games there, and then a handful of indies that they have coming to Game Pass this year.
Mm-hmm.
The Avowed demo was behind closed doors, though, for what it's worth. That was
Mm.
not out on the floor.
Right.
Um, but yeah, nothing but glowing reports from those who got to play it. They let them capture their gameplay to share it too.
Mm-hmm.
I think just today or yesterday, they put out a whole hour of different styles of play through the same vertical slice.
Mm-hmm.
This game looks great. I think you could have released it this year, but I think that shows brand strategy that they chose that to be the one that came out next spring.
Yeah.
Um, Even if I would have personally said I think that should have come out this year and Indie probably should have come out next year.
Mm-hmm.
They both look great. I'm very excited for this game. They're clearly letting it get that extra polish and that extra push. Um, Very cool. Heard great things about Metaphor as well out there. Metaphor sounds awesome. That is probably my second most anticipated game right now. Can't wait to lose all of October to that game.
Yeah.
Um, but of course, as always, there was something that had to come and overshadow the Avowed good news of it, and that is that this game is going to run at 30 uh, FPS.
Yeah.
And the exact quote from Obsidian. It was the art director who said this on the Iron Lords podcast. Shout out to them, friends of the show.
Friends of the show.
Obsidian is currently targeting 30 frames per second bare minimum. It's a first-person single-player game. You don't necessarily need that 60 frames, and that allows us to get a lot juicier with VFX, lighting, and all this other stuff. And this was from Matt Hansen. Matt Hansen goes on to explain that Obsidian settled on the minimum frame rate for Avowed early on. It's a trade-off we opted to make relatively early, and we're really happy with it. The game's running pretty smooth for how visually dense it is, and that was always our goal. Adding that stability and optimization are one of the last things you do. This could mean, while Avowed's frame rate might potentially change between now and launch, 30 FPS is the benchmark. It is worth noting he said that's the minimum.
Mm-hmm.
So this could still end up being at 60 frames, or they could patch it in later, like Starfield did.
Yeah, I imagine. I've heard a couple things of people saying like, yeah, they're gonna try to target 30 at launch, but they could definitely do a Starfield thing 6 months down the line.
It is also worth noting this is Obsidian. Obsidian does not go crazy about this. They would rather have the visual fidelity there than, oh, we have to get 60 frames. Like, I agree with the statement about RPGs. I had the same gripe with people who were upset about Starfield last year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't need everything to be 60 frames.
Right.
I'm sorry. Like, I'm one of those people. There's been a lot of Twitter wars over it, and there was somebody who tried saying that any game that is less than 60 frames is literally unplayable, and I'm like, have you ever played anything like before the last like 3 years? Have you
Right.
ever played a game?
Right.
Because almost every classic game is 30 frames or less. Like Ocarina of Time is like 15 frames a second, by the
Yeah,
way.
I just played through Ocarina of Time. Let me tell you, not hitting 30.
Not hitting 30. I found it really ridiculous that people were, this is the hill that you're dying on. This is the exact same thing. Like at this point, you're just finding reasons to complain.
People just die on the weirdest hills, man.
They die on the absolute weirdest hills, and it's usually the same. It's the usual suspects like every fucking time.
Mm-hmm.
It's console warriors, or it's just nut jobs who don't understand how game development works. And it's fine. I'm not saying everybody needs to understand that. What you do need to understand is that it's not 60 frames is not essential for a game.
Yeah.
Like, is it nice to have? Sure. But if you want the best visual and frame rate fidelity, you need to go build a PC at this point. That is the point we have reached with console gaming. You just need to do it. You go get your uncapped frame rates, see how it plays. Then there's nothing wrong with that. Like, if you have the money to go do that, go do it. Seriously, if you care that much, you need to invest in a rig like that.
Yep.
There's nothing else to say. I think Avowed looks awesome. I don't think the gameplay looked bad at all. I think it looked very smooth. I'm fine with 30 frames a second. Yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah. It's, I mean, locked 30 is like totally fine, right? I mean,
totally fine.
Yeah. And like the thing is too is like, I don't know if you saw the thing that Square put out about Final Fantasy VII Remake when they put out Rebirth, but they, something like over 70% of people left it on fidelity mode and played it at 30 frames and were perfectly fine, right? 70%. And they chose to do fidelity mode. It's not because it was automatically set to performance or balanced or whatever the mode was. But you buy these huge 4K TVs and the average player wants to see that resolution and those crispy graphics, right? Because I mean, a lot of people that aren't in this space still think graphics are how you measure a game in certain areas, right? And so I think Obsidian's doing the right thing, to be honest.
I think they are too. I think this is just silly. This is silly nitpicking as far as I'm concerned. I'm interested to see what they do. Obsidian has, in my opinion, they've never made a bad game of any game I've played of theirs, and I think I've played every single game of theirs except for Dungeon Siege 3. I think that's the one game I haven't played.
Yeah, they did Alpha Protocol, right, for Sega?
Yes.
Yeah, that game's awesome.
I have played every game of theirs except for Dungeon Siege 3, which I need to pick up at some point. But yeah, they've never made a bad game in my opinion. Their games are usually, they're 8 or higher. I don't think I've ever personally scored a game lower than an 8 that they've made. Multiple favorite RPGs ever have come from them. Like, seriously, like if I go through my Rolodex, they've probably made 5 of my favorite RPGs ever. 4 or 5. They made KOTOR 2. That was their first game, of course. Both Pillars games, The Outer Worlds, Pentiment, South Park: The Stick of Truth, Fallout New Vegas, obviously, Grounded, and now Avowed's going to be the latest game in that. Avowed and Outer Worlds 2. It's entirely possible we get 2 massive Obsidian RPGs next year.
Awesome.
Which, yeah, I'm totally here for. This is a studio that has not missed to me. I'm happy that they've been allowed to take as much time as they've needed. Because this is a studio that pretty clearly needed it.
Yeah.
Considering we've heard that it has been rebooted twice. There's multiple rumors that it got rebooted twice at least.
Let them cook. So that's all I have to say. Let them cook.
Yeah. Fergus Urquhart did an interview a couple of weeks ago, and I'm gonna see if I can find the excerpt that I was reading from it. Rock Paper Shotgun wrote about it and said that it's coming along. The project is coming along nicely, but it was not always that. During the opening years of COVID, there was talk of, do we stop making Outer Worlds 2 and throw the entire studio on Avowed? That came from an interview with Limit Break Network, where he talked about Xbox closures and layoffs, tricks to retaining talent, the influence of Baldur's Gate 3, and the pipe dream of making sequels for Alpha Protocol and Fallout New Vegas. But yeah, they talked a lot about how they retained a lot of the team from the original Outer Worlds. We got acquired in 2018. We were figuring out how to be acquired at the time. COVID happens. We're trying to get Outer Worlds done. We're trying to do the DLC. We're trying to move Avowed forward. We want to start on Outer Worlds 2, get that moving, get Grounded moving. Josh Sawyer was working on Pentiment. there's all this stuff happening, and to be honest, we were kind of a crappy developer for about a year and a half. There was talk of, do we stop Outer Worlds 2, throw the whole team on Avowed? There was talk of, well, should you do that? Because Grounded wasn't even in early access yet. Ultimately, Obsidian stayed the course while embracing the prospect of delays. We said internally, no, we'll get there. We will get there with all these games. Are they going to be on the timelines we originally thought? No. But Grounded turned out awesome. Pentiment turned out awesome. Avowed is going to be great. Outer Worlds 2 looks incredible. And then we have a base now of everything we've done with Avowed and Outer Worlds 2 with how we use Unreal 5 and all the tools we've been developing for years and years to go off and make the whole next generation of games. So I like that. I'm very, very interested to see what works here, like that they've fully made the shift into Unreal 5, which is just, I think, smarter for a lot of these studios. And as we know, like the Coalition stepped in to help them learn that. They stepped in to help In Exile. I think it's a great idea rather than everybody developing their own proprietary engine.
Right. I mean, look what happened to Halo, right? I mean,
what a disaster. Halo's even switching to Unreal, you know?
Yeah.
Like Forza, I think, is about the only one that's going to be allowed to keep its own engine because it's Forza Tech. And, you know, I think, and then obviously Bethesda has id Tech and Creation, but I really wish they would ditch Creation.
Yeah. I mean, id Tech's great, but like that's been
phenomenal.
around long enough to where people actually know how to, utilize it.
That was a big reason why they wanted Bethesda. I still maintain is they wanted id Tech in-house. I really would love to see a Halo game made with it. But I digress. Speaking about shooters, we have a quick little snippet here. There is, by the time you're listening to this, there's going to be a Nintendo Direct happening. A partner Direct. There is a rumor that Call of Duty is going to be there in some capacity, which I think it's got to be a collection of older games. It's got to be the Modern Warfare trilogy, or maybe the Black Ops. I didn't even think about this. Maybe the Black Ops trilogy.
I would, and now that you say that, I would actually put my money on Black Ops since Black Ops 6 is coming out. Maybe that would be the more advertisery move. I don't know.
I think that could happen. Especially because we've heard that whatever next year's is, whether it's a full game or an expansion, a story expansion, is supposed to be a direct follow-up to what Black Ops 2's story did. I actually wonder if you could get, even if it was just a duology, even if it was just Black Ops 1 and 2, cool. I think it'd be really cool if they came out and announced, because I mean that was one of the big things when they acquired Activision was, oh my god, Black Ops 2 sales like went through the roof. Like it is one of the 10 best-selling games on Xbox month after month. That is wild to me that and Black Ops 3 still sell that well on Xbox.
Yeah.
Part of me wonders if maybe they would, work out a deal with Sony to where like, hey, is there a way that we could like release the Switch version of Black Ops 2 on here and like all three use the same servers?
Yeah.
That would be gangbusters. But I also don't know if you would do that leading directly into Black Ops 6. I don't know. But this is clearly fulfilling part of Microsoft's obligation to bring Call of Duty games to the Switch. I would think anything like big brain multiplayer wise probably waits until Switch 2. Because I do think that Microsoft is going to have several games to announce for Switch 2 when that happens here in the next couple of months. Even if it's just smaller, even if it's just like, because Hi-Fi Rush never came to Switch.
Yeah.
Even if it's things like Hi-Fi Rush or,
which it's been rated for Switch. I wonder if that could be shown off tomorrow. That would be an interesting kind of.
It could be. I think that falls into a weird legal area now with the Nexon purchase.
Yeah. But I mean, if it was in development already.
That's true. That's true.
By the
way,
there
were files found.
Speaking of Switch games tomorrow, did you see that the PlayStation Store leaked to the release date for Lego Horizons Adventures on Switch?
It's in December, isn't it?
November 14th.
November 14th. Okay, last I heard it was December. Okay, November 14th. That makes sense.
Yep.
Okay.
According to PlayStation.com, Lego Horizon Adventures, join Aloy and friends on lush wilderness on a quest to save the world. Adventure is available on Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 5, and PC on November 14th.
I wonder if that gets shown tomorrow.
Yeah, I bet it does. It was shown at the last Direct. which was crazy to see. PlayStation publishing on Nintendo.
That's so crazy. And it's funny that they brought it to everything but Xbox.
I know. God,
that continues to just be hilarious to me.
What a gut punch, man. You know?
God. So,
I mean, I don't really care either way, but like, it's on Switch, man.
Yeah. Well, I also think that's another calculated move from Sony, knowing how well the Lego games sell on Switch.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Continuing Call of Duty, there was there is a data mine leak that happened in Call of Duty HQ, and this is interesting. I want to talk about these because I find it really, really fascinating. Who knows if this is going to pan out, but supposedly this is what's happening. Call of Duty 2025 appears to be Modern Warfare 4, which we'd heard it was going to be the Black Ops continuation. I literally just said that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still on team. I think it's Black Ops. Pretty reputable people have said that have leaked Call of Duty stuff for a couple of years. Rouse Valve, namely, has said that it is happening. Like, that is what it is next year. Supposedly there is a Modern Warfare 4 in development, though, developed by Infinity Ward, has content for multiplayer, DMZ, Outbreak, and campaign. The rumor is that potentially Omni movement might be gone in Modern Warfare 4 because Infinity Ward doesn't like it. Sorry, everything I've seen from Omni movement, it looks awesome.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
It looks awesome.
It's definitely game-changing.
Warzone 3 is supposedly in development.
Jeez, really?
Yep. Dang. Yep. DMZ sequel. Little surprised that DMZ hasn't spun off into its own game quite yet.
Or at least part of like the Warzone package. Like a separate mode in the Warzone package. Man, I'm kind of shocked that Call of Duty hasn't gone. I'm not, because they can charge $70 for it every year. But I'm like, part of me wonders what would happen if Call of Duty's multiplayer stuff went free to play. In some capacity.
Yeah, I think that I think it was supposed to be Warzone was supposed to be that option. Like, hey, here's a free one, but it's so flooded with hackers these days,
right,
and cheaters, that it's just not worth it.
Right.
Also, like, sorry, nobody's doing a battle royale like Fortnite.
Right.
Fortnite's battle royale is so significantly better than Warzone's. It's not even funny, even on off seasons. Mm-hmm. I did appreciate that they tried something new with DMZ. I do think they're probably going to keep doing that. Those are the modes. Like, I feel like you could do free to play DMZ and free to play zombies. Mm-hmm. Other places,
free to play zombies seems.
Just have a dedicated team at Treyarch always working on zombies.
Yeah,
because Treyarch zombies is the only zombies anybody cares about. Let's be honest. Mm-hmm. You could have dedicated updates for those. Like once a year or something. I don't know. Do seasons in them, things like that. There's some interesting stuff you could do, but I've speculated on that for forever. It does sound like, reading through the lines, if this happens, if Modern Warfare 4 does come as 2025's, that it would give Treyarch more time to take the reins for whatever the follow-up to Black Ops 6 is.
Yeah.
But man, if this one hits, I think Microsoft is really going to have to look at it and be like, okay, we got to switch to a 4-year development cycle on these games. Mm-hmm. Instead of 2 or 3, we got to switch it to 4.
Yeah.
And just accept that occasionally you're going to have to go a year without them. Like, I thought next year would have been a golden opportunity to go without one, so you could release Gears and let it be your premier game for a few months,
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about that before, where like, you could do Call of Duty every other year and then have every other year be one of your premier shooters, like Halo, Gears, Doom, Wolfenstein, whatever, right? I mean, you have so many now. Overwatch, I guess. There's just so many things you could do with that, but I guess money talks and Call of Duty's popular, right? So, but the smart thing too would be like, you could be like, oh well, hey, and this year Halo's coming out, so you can unlock Master Chief in Call of Duty if you buy whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, you're gonna see more what you call it,
I think you're going to see the Doom guy in Call of Duty at some point.
I think he already is.
Is he? Oh.
Yeah. I know you can get the shotgun and the chainsaw.
I knew Snoop Dogg was in there, but I didn't know.
I have Snoop Dogg. He was part of the Battle Pass.
Did you get Cheech and Chong too?
I did not. I did not pay for Cheech and Chong.
Oh.
I did buy the Spawn Pass that gave me like 15 different characters from Spawn, though.
Oh.
Keith David voices Spawn. It's great.
Nice.
I got one more quick story for us before we get out of here. It's really less of a story, more than something I'd call attention to over on YouTube. Liam Robertson, who does documentaries with Did You Know Gaming, has spent the last year or two interviewing folks from Activision and Toys for Bob about canceled projects. And in here he talks about Crash Bandicoot 5, which was canceled after Crash 4 failed to meet expectations. The rocky development of Crash Team Rumble, and other games that never saw the light of day. He shows art and some footage from Crash 5. One of the other projects referenced is a potential Crash and Spyro crossover that never materialized.
Yeah, it was cool. It looked cool.
Yeah, very very cool video though. Go watch it if you're interested in stuff like that. Go watch it. I thought it was fascinating to watch. It does raise questions, I think, about what Toys for Bob is doing next, especially since Microsoft is publishing it. I still suspect that it's probably Spyro or Crash related, personally.
Yeah, I would bet it's Spyro without Crash,
Yeah.
in my opinion. That's my guess, but
What do we know?
What do we know, Josh? What do we know?
Well, I think that's all that I've got for tonight.
Yeah, I think that's kind of all I
that's a
got
wrap.
too. Yeah. You playing anything cool, Josh?
Not really. I'm playing a lot of Marvel Fortnite right now.
Yeah. How's that
Having
going?
a lot of fun running around as a banana with the War Machine ensemble.
Oh, jeez, that's awesome.
Yeah, when you get all 3 pieces of the War Machine armor, it says Instrument of War as an achievement in game and gives you an XP boost.
That's cool.
So I'm a banana flying around with a jetpack, an auto turret, and War Machine gauntlets. It's pretty great.
Nice.
Or a Captain America shield.
That's cool.
It's a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying it. I really have not enjoyed Fortnite this year, to be completely honest. I thought last year's seasons, while pretty up and down, had at least a fun island to play on. I've never liked this island personally. But an all Marvel season with an actual storyline was a quick way to bring me back in.
Yeah.
So I'm having a lot of fun. A lot of fun playing with friends. Other than that, I'm not really doing much else in terms of gaming. New Destiny content drops tomorrow morning.
Right.
Excited for that. Excited for the exotic mission.
Right.
And Act 3 of the story. I am starting Star Wars Outlaws tomorrow, so I'm very excited to talk about that on the next episode.
Yes, I will be talking about that on the next episode as well.
I am very excited. 7 out of 10 reviews, be damned.
Good.
I'm getting it. I'm very excited. I've heard that that Nyx is one of the all-time great video game companions already.
Great.
Which is some of the same stuff we heard about BD1 in the early reviews of Fallen Order, so I'm very excited for that. I don't really care if it's 7 out of 10, whatever. People say it's like the most Star Wars feeling game ever.
Great. That's what I want.
So I'm very excited. Jeff Grubb was making this comparison earlier, being like, yeah, here's some basic critique of it. He's like, I don't think it's perfect by any means, but it's very fun. He's like, I grew up playing a bunch of like really mid Star Wars games. He's like, the games I remember from when I was younger are like Shadows of the Empire, Bounty Hunter. What was the other one he brought up?
Clone Wars?
No. God, now I can't remember. But he was like, we had mid games, like we had mid Star Wars games, and that was fine because they were fun. He's like, I'll take a bunch of 7 out of 10 Star Wars games if it means we get them more frequently.
Yeah.
Like whatever, they're fun. You know what you're getting yourself into, essentially.
Yeah.
That's how I felt. I did a reply to it being like, yeah, I remember, we had Rogue Squadron and KOTOR, but we also really enjoyed things like Bounty Hunter, Clone Wars, Battle for Naboo. Like,
yep.
These games that were not incredible, but they were fun.
Right.
And that's all that matters when it comes to Star Wars stuff. Oh, Phantom Menace for PS1 was the one he brought up.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I remember how bad that was. I remember Star Wars Destruction Who remembers Super Bombad Racing is truly one of the worst games I've ever played.
Yeah, that was remember
Everybody liked Star Wars Racer.
yeah, remember when they made Racer Revenge, the sequel, the weird sequel that they
I remember when they made Racer Revenge, and I was so upset because it was only on PS2.
Yeah.
And at the time, I only owned a GameCube, and I was very upset that it was not on. I was upset that and the Starfighter games were nowhere to be found on GameCube.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, we have Rogue Squadron and they don't, so fuck you. we have the best like, at the time the best Star Wars game ever made. Rogue Squadron 2, still one of the top 5 ever in my opinion.
Yeah.
I got to play the Battle of Endor. It was fantastic.
Yep.
So I didn't care. It was cool. I have very fond memories of the Rogue Squadron games. But
yeah, I'm quite excited for Outlaws. So
I'm very excited for Outlaws. I think Outlaws is going to be a lot of fun. Other than that, nothing else. I'm really just like kind of biding my time because there's about to be a bunch of games coming out that I want to play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we just talked about Outlaws. I need to play Dungeons of Hinterberg. Keep forgetting to play that. Looking forward to Astrobot next week.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to be a day one purchase for me, but I am looking forward to playing Astrobot. I love a good platformer. Yeah, and then it's kind of just playing as much Fortnite as I can, because Fortnite and Destiny as I can. Destiny's 10th anniversary is coming up in a couple weeks. And then we get to October, it's Metaphor time.
Yep.
It's Metaphor and Diablo time. So very excited.
Yeah. Yeah, I finished Wolfenstein New Order. Great game. Great game. Highly recommended. But I haven't started anything new because obviously PAX is coming up. So let me tell you, Josh, I'm back on my Disney Dreamlight Valley kick.
Oh boy.
The Star Path this season, Josh. Let me tell you. Princess and the Frog. Got a new restaurant, got a water tower.
Jesus. What is this, Disney World?
Kinda. Yeah, there was a Disney Parks Star Path and I missed it. Because I wasn't playing
Were you allowed to build a spaceship Earth?
No, but I have I do have the Ferris wheel from California Adventure. I have the teacups. I have Dumbo, and I have the Tiana's Bayou Adventure water tower.
Ah, okay.
Mm-hmm. And then I have a Figment topiary outside my house.
Stupid.
It is really stupid. Also super cool. So, I also have Donald's boat from Old Toontown. So,
Old Toontown.
Yep. And Scrooge McDuck keeps bothering me because I owe him money for building these houses and I never paid him back. Whoops. But that's it. That's all I've been playing.
All right.
Oh, I also have the Walt Disney and Mickey Mouse statue somewhere. So,
the Partners statue.
Yep. Well, Josh, let's get out of here.
Let's get out.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching and or listening to this episode of Xbox Casuals, the Xbox podcast. Check out Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast, our sister show. Check out mine and Josh's interview with our friend Laron and Jeff Gardner over on the Boss Rush podcast. Josh, thank you for your time as always. Where can we find you?
Twitter, Josh_Finn, 2 N's.
2 N's.
Still there.
You can find me at I'm Corey in HD. I will be at PAX. So if any of you listeners out there are going to PAX, don't talk to me. No, I'm just kidding. Come say hi. It'll be fun.
Jesus.
I'm just kidding. Come say hello. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Until next time, we love you. Goodbye.